Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're really happy that you're here, that you made it today on this beautiful sunny day to our webinar about how to create your own landing page. So my name is Ariana. I'm very happy to welcome you here today together with Stella from Wagon.
Hi.
And maybe we'll still wait another minute or so to see if some more people are gonna come. Maybe I can just say a few words about Malt and about myself. So I'm Ariana. I'm working as community developer for Malt. And yeah, basically my task is to provide you with cool content that is valuable for you guys, working as freelancers on Malt, on the platform, and also to organize live events. So for all of you who are interested in that, we're often in Berlin, in Hamburg, in Munich, sometimes also in Frankfurt, in Cologne, in Dresden. So you can always stay updated about all of our events on our blog, on our events page. We can also put that later in the chat so that you can always have a quick look. And also you can sign up for our newsletter so that you never miss any of our events. But yeah, one of our big events that we are trying to organize for you as well is webinars with different topics. This month we have a lot of different topics about your salary as a freelancer, but also like today about a tech topic about how to create your own landing page. So like I said, I'm very happy to have you here. Maybe let's start, I would say, because I see that a lot of people actually tuned in. So again, welcome from my side. Like I said, my name is Ariana. And basically my task today is that I want to give you a super quick heads up and talk to you about all the updates, everything that has been happening in the past few months at Malt. Then we will have a workshop with Le Wagon. And if you have a lot of big questions, maybe save them for the end. Anyways, we also have the chat here. So I will always have to have a quick look in there. So if there's anything urgent, I will for sure give a little heads up to Stella, and we will try to answer all of your questions directly as well. So I guess that most of you are already on Malt or know Malt, but maybe some of you have tuned in from meetups. So that's why I want to give you a super quick overview of what Malt is doing. Basically, Malt is one of the biggest freelancer portals in Europe. We have now about 350,000 freelancers, over 50,000 clients already. And in Germany, we have our platform since 2019. However, Malt is already very popular in France. It's actually a French platform. We are also present in Spain, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, and in the UK. And we just recently actually got some more funding. So we see that more and more people want to become freelancers. This is growing. This is a growing market also for clients. So for example, here you see we have already over 50,000 clients, big, small, medium-sized companies who already trust in Malt and who believe that they can find their perfect freelancer on Malt. And for you as a freelancer, we try to find basically the perfect project for you from one of these clients, for example. But because I guess most of you know about this already, and we don't want to get too much into detail about Malt, today our focus is on Le Wagon and on our workshop with Stella. So I'm very happy to welcome you here today. And I'm going to turn off my camera. If you guys want, I can give you the option to actually turn your cameras on. If you want to be there with your face, you can also just decide to not do it because everything is being recorded. So you can also watch the entire recording again at a later point if you want, if you forgot about something. But yeah, I will give you the opportunity to also put on your video if you want. So then, Stella, that's your stage, and I'm very happy to say hi to you, that you're here today.
Cool. Hi. Yeah, so I'm Stella. I'm from Le Wagon, Berlin. I started working there beginning of this year. So my background is that I'm a graphic designer, then turned into a digital product designer, worked in different agencies and different startups, but at some point had enough of this. So I was looking for a career change and found Le Wagon, which is a big coding school. It's also a French company actually, but I joined Le Wagon in Berlin, made a coding bootcamp. And as their claim is, change your life, learn to code, which kind of applies to me since I was always working on the other side of front-end design. So I did the design, but I never got into the coding thing. And now I'm trying to go into this direction. And Le Wagon is a great place to do so. It's more for full stack web development or data science, but pretty much everyone can get out of it what they want. And I really enjoy it there. And I hope to be able to show you something today more front-end wise. This is why you came here, because you want to see how you can do a landing page in just around an hour. After the lecture, I will give you access to the learning platforms that we have, where you can rewatch the slides. You can also rewatch the video, and there are some instructions that you can also follow, which is a really detailed way to go if you are a bit lost on what we learned today. So this will be the access will be granted after it, and for now it's just me who will tell you, who will give you a small lecture for around an hour. I will a bit jump in between showing you things live and then also just giving you some background information. So for now, you don't have to code simultaneously. You can just sit back and listen to me talking. Yes. So let's jump right into it. So what we will do is I will show you a bit how websites are coded. And what we're going to build is this thing. Just as the reference, I'm going to, I use some pictures of Le Wagon, and it doesn't really matter what content. So that's why I just put change your life, learn to code there. We got a small hover effect here, and then just 3 cards and a nice plain little footer. And all of this can be achieved in under 1 hour. But for now, I'm just going to give you a bit more background information. Yes. So how does a website actually work? When you visit a website, for example, wagon.com, you enter a URL, and then you see the result as a web page. But basically, this is you, the client, on a computer who sends a request to a server. The request is pretty much the URL, in this case, lewagon.com, and the URL is telling the server the address where the file is stored on the server. And then the server answers with a response, which is the HTML file. And then the computer reads it and digests it. It analyzes it. And this is also described as parsing. And then you can actually see the file on your computer. For this today, we're going to write this HTML file and also CSS. There are many different tools that you could use for it here in the slides. So don't be surprised or wondering about this in the slides and also in the videos that you can find on the learning platform. It is still Sublime code, but today we're going to use VS Code, which is pretty much the same. And you could also use Word to write, like the HTML is just a text document, but VS Code is a very nice and clean text editor that many developers use today. And it's got a few cool functions that I'm going to show you later. So for this, we're going to use that. And another tool that we're going to use is Chrome, that you might know. There's also Firefox that many editors like to use. There's also Firefox specifically for developers, but today we're going to use Chrome. And eventually, if you have made a website, you also want to host it, so it is actually seen somewhere on the internet. And for this, you could use GitHub. Depending on the timeline, I think it might be a bit too tight to do it today, so we will probably not get to that point. But you will find instructions on this on the learning platform. So once you're done, you can jump over to GitHub and deploy your site there. So a small recap of what we're going to use and what we're going to do. The text editor, it's still here, Sublime Text, but we're going to use VS Code. It's a tool to write our code, but no, it's VS Code in our case. The web browser, Google Chrome, that's right. It's a tool to navigate on a website and display pages. And as last thing, the hosting service, it's GitHub, and it's a service to put your website online. Yes. And the cool thing is also that you can host your websites free with GitHub. And it's also a good collaboration tool that developers use to store different versions of their web applications. Nice. So to make it short and simple, there is a boilerplate. This is what you call kind of a base kit of a website, and we're going to download it. So I'm going to enter that code and download it. Nice, it's there. And I'm just going to drag it to my desktop. It is here. And now we're going to open VS Code. It's a blank editor, as you can see, and it's super easy to actually open it. You just take the folder and drag it into the editor. Do it once again. Something. Now it worked. Awesome. So I'm opening the file on the next side, next to it, so you can see it. The good thing about VS Code is that it's also giving you the folder structure. So you can see that the images are here just as they are here. And then all the other thing that we have is the index file, the index HTML, and the style CSS. Oh, I heard there's a message. You had some problems with your browser. This link will be provided to you later, but since I'm just running you through the lecture right now, there is no need to join me simultaneously. But after the lecture, you will have the link and you will also have the access to the learning platform. So no need to follow along, just listen to me now, and then you can do it on this beautiful sunny night or sometime later. Yeah. Cool. So we have it opened, and one of the key features that I really like in VS Code is that you can press Go Live, which we're going to do, and then it will automatically open a browser and display you what is in there. And as you can see, there is nothing, because when we inspect our file, there is nothing there. I'm just writing something so we can see that it's working. Hello class, and boom, and you can see that it's live. So I don't have to refresh, which is very cool. I mean, it's super basic right now. It's just plain text, nothing going on, but we will change that in an instant. Nice. So this is set up. Let's jump back to the slides. I will tell you some basics about HTML, so it makes a bit more sense. So what is a web page? A web page consists of the content and the structure, which is written in HTML. And for the styling, we use CSS. This is what you see, the styling or the design. And in the first part, we're going to focus on content and structure. And afterwards, we will also cover the CSS part. Giving you a short rundown on the syntax, since there is a lot, but I'm trying to make a short overview. Again, a short message. I will come to your question later. So the basic syntax is in HTML that you have tags and you have an opening and a closing tag. So you have the opening tag, which has these, I don't know the word in English, these opening, you can tell that the element is in between the middle. So the content goes between the opening and the closing tag, and the closing tag always starts with a slash. So sometimes on some elements, you also have some attributes. For example, when you have a link, so this would be the core structure, and so it doesn't really make sense now probably, but for a link, which is an A tag, the attribute would then be the href, which is the thing, the link where the person actually gets redirected to. So in this case, you would have the opening A tag with the attribute http://lewagon.com. Then you would you could put in any name that would then be displayed, and then you have the closing tag. So this is the basic HTML syntax. And when you have a HTML document, it always starts with a doc type HTML. You don't have to worry too much about what it means. It just tells the computer, it's an HTML document. Then you have the opening tag and the opening tag and the closing tag for HTML, and all of our content goes in between there. And maybe you've already heard of this, but it is divided into head. And the head is kind of the website's brain. It contains metadata, but it's not displayed. And then it also has the body, and the body is the actual page's content. This is what is displayed in the browser. So when it may seem a bit confusing, but you always have to think, is it something that you can see? Is it actual content, or is it something that makes the page structure, like the brain behind it? To make it a bit clearer, I'm going to, let's just search, let's go to google.com and search for Le Wagon. And now we can see here, this is a metadata. And if we open the website and reject, and then we open the inspect tool in Chrome, which is one of the cool features of Chrome, why you can or should use it. Wait, let me just put it a bit bigger, 1000, yeah. We have to, give me a second. Yeah, we were looking at the head, and it doesn't open, now it opens. Yeah, here, the meta description, as you can see, the name is description, and then you can, I hope it's not too small, like the browser is a bit small, probably, but here you can see, change your lifeline to code, Le Wagon is ranked, blah, 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 blah. And when we go back, this would be then here. So this is nothing that you can see on the website, but it is the core, the brain behind it. And if we go to our small editor and open our browser next to it, as you can see, there's nothing here. Then we could also change our metadata. Let's see if we can do that right now. Up, where do we have it? Yeah, right here we have Le Wagon web development sprint. And just to see if it works, we are going to, how is it called? Yeah, cool. We're going to call it a cool sprint. Nice. And now you can see up here, it changed. So it didn't change anything of the website because there's nothing to see there, but it changed the data behind it. Nice. Yeah. So as you can see, the page title would this be, and this would be the meta description. And there's also the meta charted. All you need to know is that this basically means it enriches the language that the browser can read, because there are, for example, in France, there are many different accents, or in German, there's ä, ü, ü, all of these things that the computer would be confused with if we wouldn't give him that line of code. But with this line, he now knows, okay, this is one of those fancy letters. I know what it is. I can read it. Yes, that's for the heads. And from there, we are just going to jump into the headers, which are also, you could also say headlines. There's the H1, which is the biggest. It's the main title, H2, H3, 4, etc. Usually you don't go bigger than H4. Like you could go higher, but it would make your page very messy. And it's also better to define. I mean, I'm a designer, so I know that it's important to define a certain way your page should look, and you should not make too many different font sizes, too many colors, too many. It's better to have a clear design, because otherwise it will just get confusing. And the next important thing is the paragraph. It's just a short P. This is a basic text. You could also use span for that, or but P is the most common. And if you want to emphasize something, you can use the strong. This is an inline tag, which you can put around one single word. So for example, here in this case, the consecutor would now be bold. Another element that we have is unordered list, or short UL. And as you can see, most of these tags make sense. So the paragraph is a P, unordered list is UL, and in there we have the LI, which is a list element. We want more than one list element, so we also have milk and butter. And you still need the UL on the outside, because otherwise list element wouldn't know how to behave. There is not only the unordered list, but also the ordered list. You might wonder what the difference between those two are. The unordered list will display a list with bullet points, and the ordered list will have numbers in front of it, so indexes. So France would be number 1, Uruguay would be number 2, Belgium number 3. One other key element that we have are images. So kind of difference, as you can see here. Here we always have opening and closing tags, but the image doesn't need a closing tag, because everything is placed in there, but it needs attribute source, where you tell it where it can find everything. For example, in this case, we're telling the image, go to the images folder and search for the file called logo.png. It doesn't necessarily have to be on your computer, but you could also put a link there, like just have a hosting service for your pictures, and then you have the URL and paste it there. And another thing that you have in images is the alt. This will get rendered when the page doesn't get loaded. And it's also for accessibility. It's very useful when you put it in there. So people who have bad eyes, or people who read the page with a page reader, will then be told, here is an image with a dog. And yeah, this is useful and also good to have. Now we are going to implement that. I'm quickly hopping over to the chat and see if there are some questions on this area, but if not, I
think we're good. I
Okay.
checked as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, Stella.
Then I will start to actually code these things. So if we look at it, what do we have here? We have a big banner with an H1, a short text under it, and a button. Under it, we have H2 because it's a bit smaller than the H1. And then we have three boxes with images and a footer. So let's do that. We open our editor, and as you can see, it is still blank. I'm going to open the browser next to it. I hope it works. Yes, so we can actually see what we're doing, which is always good. And one of the features that I really like about VS Code. So I'm almost set. Cool. So in the empty template that you're given, you already have like hints what should go where, which is kind of useful. So let's start. The first thing, I'm just going to write it from top to bottom. And so the first thing that we have was the H1. And as you can see, VS Code is already giving you this closing text. So you don't have to take care of that, which is very useful. Let's just see what should we put on for the headline. Change your life, learn to code. Yeah, let's do that. Change your life, learn to code. It looks awesome. The font is exactly what we want, but we'll cover this later. Below that, we have a P tag. And again, we're just going to copy it. So let's see. Nice, it's there. Below that, we have an A tag. The A tag, which will be the link. But for now, I'm just going to leave it blank because we won't click that link anyways. And I'm going to say click me. So nice, looks like a link to me. As I said, we're going to take care of the styling later. Right now it looks awful, but that's not the point. So below for the cards, what we have is first we've got the H2. So we're going to do that again. H2, discover our campuses. Nice, and as you can see, the H2 is a bit smaller, but still it is bold, so it looks more important than the regular P tag. And so we got the headline, and now let's cover the cards. So right there, they all have the same structure. They have one image, then they have the H3, it's a bit smaller than the H2, and then a P tag. Okay, so I'm going to do one.
Stella,
Yeah.
there just appeared another question from Mustafa. Why don't you use section or article tags? Maybe you can quickly answer to that.
This would be too advanced for this short. I mean, these are also possible tags that you could use, but this would really be too much of explaining. Like in this short hour, we just going to cover the basics. I mean, it's a good question. You could definitely use some when you've got a more advanced project, but for this short thing, no. Yeah, I hope that covers your question. We're going to have diffs later, if you're wondering why I'm not using diffs, but we're going to have them later. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. So right now, there is Shanghai, then we have P, learn to code in, and I'm just going to use a strong here in Shanghai. Nice, so you can see it's bold, and I forgot the image. And there we have the source tag. And now we're going to tell the computer that it has to look into the images folder, and it's important that you pay attention to the naming of it, because otherwise it won't be able to find it. So we're telling it go to the images folder and then search for shanghai.jpg. Nice, there it is. Cool, we've got one card. There are 3 more to go. I'm just going to copy it and to place it here, place it there. And of course, it's not all for Shanghai. So this one will be for Paris. So I'm replacing it. This is also one of the cool functionalities that you can write on multiple lines. Nice, Paris is ready. And now it's London that is missing. London. And so you can, if you want to get into VS Code, you can search in the many shortcuts like this one, where you can type on multiple lines, which will save you time. London it is, not Paris. Yes, did I do something wrong? No, there we are. Cool. Oh yeah, the footer is still missing. What was the footer? It was just a plain P tag made with love by le Wagon. Nice, that's there. It's down there. It looks not good, which is because we don't have any stylings on it, which we will cover now in the next step. Yeah, we will now actually design it. And when you have a web page, as I said, you have the content and the structure, which is generated by the HTML, and then the design, which is made with CSS. So now we can jump into that. When you have your own project, you've got to let the computer know where things are, as I did with the image tag. And how you do it is that you go to your brain of your website, so the head, and in there you link it. And as you can see here, it's not in an extra folder in this case, but it's just in the same folder as our HTML file is. And then you also have to say this rel style sheet. And this will then be connected to the style CSS file. And when you write something into your linked CSS file, it then changes simultaneously. For example, in this case, we want the biggest headline not to be black by default, but red. So this would then make it red. We can see, we're going to check this on another internet site that you might know, Medium. And let's inspect it. And they've got lots of scripts here. Let's go to their head sections. And I think they changed it a bit since the lecture, since there's just so much. I'm just going to delete a lot of this and basically destroy the website. But as you know, I'm not a hacker. I'm just deleting the linked style sheets currently on my computer. So I'm not actually in their website. Let's see, is something happening? No, he doesn't. No, now nice. I think I deleted the font. We need some more. Oh, awesome. It looks wonderful. So yeah, this looks pretty much like the site that we have done here, which is it's a core structure of the website. When you remove all the linked CSS, as you can see, here's one of the images. Here's like a pictogram, something, an avatar probably, but it looks horrible. So let's try to move our site from this to that. And this will be done with CSS. Just to give you a short rundown on the CSS syntax. When you want to target something in CSS, you always have a selector. In the example before, we had the H1, and then you have a property and a value. Or you can also have multiple values. It makes sense. Normally you have up to like 5, 10, 15, 20. For example, you have the H2, so the headline that is a bit smaller, and you want it to be red and to have the size of 24 pixel. When it comes to pixel sizes, it's a good recommendation to always use multiples of 8. So it's 8 pixel, 16 pixel, 24, 40, but there are many articles on that you can actually read online when you really want to dive deeper into this topic. And for colors, as you can see, you can use the red, but you have red, blue, green, but these are very bright and not very pleasant to look at colors. So another way to use color is the background color, but you might be confused by this. The color is here is the color of the text, and background color is the color of the background, because color, it doesn't say font color, but it is the font color actually. And let's see another example. You can have this in orange, but you could also have hex codes. This would then give you a more subtle or like different. There are many more shades than these orange, black, midnight blue. Yeah, so hex codes give you a big variety. You could also use the RGB values. These are from 0 to 255. It's a red, green, and blue. And this would be a different option to use colors, but sometimes you want to have a nice little opacity. Then you could use the RGBA, and this actually only means that you have this force value of 1.0 here. 1.0 means that it is fully there. 0.0 would mean it's completely transparent. And if you want to have like an opacity of 50%, you could have something like 0.5. Yeah, so here, this would be then this shade of orange. And sometimes you don't only want to have black, but some, like here, like the curly bracket has a nice shade of gray. The black value would be the RGB 000, and the white would be 255, 255, 255. And slightly, it depends on the quality of your screen. It looks pretty black to me, but this is it's a dark shade of gray. If you want to have a light shade of gray, you could use something like 230, 230, 230. If you want to have a nice grayscale, of course, you don't always want to have these pure grayscales, and there are a lot of articles that you can read into if you want to have some nice tinted, like to have a tinted black with a slight blue in it, or like a bit pinkish white. So yeah, there are many different articles on the internet that you can use. So the next important thing is the font family, or fonts in general. A classic one would be the Times. This is also default font, which we can see it's not that nice. It's a serif font. And another one would be the Arial. It's a sans serif. I don't know if you know anything about typography, but serif means that it doesn't have these nice, this little, the little foot or the little tail on top of the B. That's what serif and sans serif means. And then we also have monospace because it always has the same width. This would be the Courier font, for example. And then you can transform the way your text looks. For example, you can give it a height of 30 pixel. And this doesn't actually mean that it's a line height. The line height is the space that is surrounding your text. You've got to pay a bit attention to it, but usually it's enough if you change the font size. Just sometimes when you've got longer paragraphs of text, it's important that you increase the line height, because otherwise you will just have a chunk of black text, and this is not pleasant to look at and also not pleasant to read. And another way to transform your text with CSS is use letter spacing. As you can see, by default, it's 0. And if you increase the letter spacing by example here 10 pixels, this means you will between each letter have 10 pixels. Another way to transform your typography is the font weight. So it goes from 100 to 900. And 900 would be super, like an extra bold or black, and the 100 would be the lightest weight, which is depending on the font family you're using. It could be extra light or a light. If you are not used to using these terms, you could also use lighter or bold. This is a bit more straightforward than these numbers, but it means it's the same. Yeah. Before we jumped into the CSS section, when I did the link, as you could see, the link looked terrible because it still had this underline thing. So one important thing that you can do is you change text decoration from the default underline to none, which will then turn the sign up into a nice button, which looks more modern, and it doesn't have this underline thing. And you could also tell the text to always align center or to justify, which would change the alignment of the text depending on how much text you have, if it's a long text to read or just a short descriptive text. Yes. And now we're going to apply these rules to our skeleton. If you don't have any questions on this section, I would jump right into it. I think there was a question. Yeah, this was the question. Cool. So let's open our browser again. And as you can see in the skeleton that we already have linked the CSS file. Oop, wait. Yeah, I am. We already have linked the CSS file in the head section. If you do it on your own, you always have to do it on your own, because otherwise it's not linked. It doesn't know it exists. And what we also have linked in the head section is the font family. In this case, we are providing the file, the font family Chivo and the font family Overpass, which I'm now going to implement. And let's see how this changes. So let's start. So in general, what we can see here is we have a weird padding that I want to get rid of first. So if you want to access everything on your website, it's the asterisk that you can use. And for now, I'm going to tell it to have the font family. It was Overpass, I think, Overpass. Let me see, did I type it wrong? Overpass. No, it's correct. Overpass, sans serif. Nice, it worked. We have now beautiful font. It doesn't annoy me as much as the last one did. The next thing I want to change is this A tag I don't like the way it looks. So let's start with this. This was a text decoration. None. Nice. And as you can see, it's gone now. I think it shouldn't be this default purple shade. So I'm also telling it the color, and I'm just giving it the color black. Nice. Awesome. So we already changed quite a few things, but to really style it, we need a different structure, which we will cover now. It is a div structure. This kind of goes into the question that was asked before. Divs are like empty containers that you can wrap around your elements, and it will give you also the possibility to add specific classes or IDs to the websites of to the elements of your website. So when you have a real website, you might think, how is this structured? So on the upper half, we have the search bar, and this is one div. And then we have another div with the, so it's Airbnb website, as you might have seen. And so we have another div with all the available apartments, and then we have another div with the maps that you can navigate in. And all of these divs are again divided in single divs. For example, all of these apartments are cards, pretty much like the ones that we did in a very basic styling. And this you can give a div a certain width and a certain height, or you can leave that out and tell it to fill the width that its parent div has. So when you wrap a div in a div, the outer one is called the parent and the inner one is called the child. Also, when you have a div outside of a H1 and a P tag, these are the children elements, and the outer element is called the parent element. Yes. And another way how divs help us organize the content on our website is using margin and padding. Margin is the distance that an element has to the outside of its content, and padding is to the inside of it. Oh no, I confused it. Padding is what it has on the inside. It makes more sense when I show it to you live, but it's good to know these two values. So yeah, margin is what you have on the outside, and padding is the element itself. We're going to use this on our card, and it will change the way the card looks pretty well. Another thing that you can do with your div is give it a border. So this would be a border of 1 pixel solid yellow. It's not very pretty, but you can see that there's a border around this box. You could also, oftentimes it's not that common that you have really square edges, but you have a border radius. So this means that you can round it. For example, here it has a border radius of 5 pixels, which gives it a nice subtle rounded corner. Yeah, and if you have, for example, a rectangle or a div of 300 pixel width and 300 pixel height, and you tell it the border radius to be 100%, then it would be completely round. That's how you can, or already it's also enough to do it at 50%. This is how, for example, avatars like user icons are made. When you've got this user picture and then it's just a square image, a square div, but you tell it to have a border radius of 50%. Another way to style it is to give it a box shadow, which is just to make it a bit more prominent and stand out especially when you've got a white box on a white background. And these we will apply later. And for example, in this case, it tells the border radius to move 10 pixels to the right, 20 pixels to the bottom, and has a blurring of 30 pixels and a shade of blue. Nice. And now let's add these to actually get things looking the way we want it to look. So let's maybe start with our banner. But before we can start, of course, we have to restructure all of our content. So we've got to nest it, and there's a certain convention to write it. The cool thing about VS Code too is that you have a shortcut that you can just press dot and then you give it a class name. So you write, now it works, diff, you just write dot banner, and then it automatically creates the banner. So I'm going to put that in here. So go out and you go in here. And then for our card section, we also have to structure it. So the whole thing is in one div, and then also our individual cards are in one div. So let's start with the outer one. Just going to name it container, since it contains all the elements in there. Going to take this and this and this and paste it in there. And as you can see, it's convenient. It's a convention that you indent the things, because you then can collapse it, and it's also more readable and more accessible for fellow developers. And otherwise, if you don't indent it, your code is going to get really, really messy. Yes, so that's one of the conventions you should follow. Again, so now we've got to put all of our 3 cards into one box. I'm going to call it card box. I'm just structuring it, and then I will give you a short explanation on what the difference between ID and class is. But for now, that looks fine. And also when you go on the website, as you can see, nothing has changed, because a div is just basically an empty box. There is nothing. And since we have not applied any CSS rules, it also doesn't know that it should have a certain styling. And as last thing, I'm going to have the individual card. I'm just going to do this for all of our 3 cards. So pay attention that the indentation stays correct. So we have this here. Nice. And a last card. And take it out and put it in. Nice. Looks nice and clean to me. We have the big outer container. Then in here we have the H2 and the card box that contains all of our cards. Since we're going to style them in a different way, in a specific way, it's always nice to name your classes specifically. For example, this will be a white card, so I'm going to call it card white. And for the footer, this is pretty much just it's just I'm going to call it class footer. It's a div with a P inside. It's going to do it like this. Nice. And now that we've structured it, I think the head needs some more structure, since right now we have the click me. It doesn't really look like this thing we have here. It doesn't look like a button at all. So it's really easy to make things look like a button. We are just going to wrap div around it and give it the name button, and then put the A tag in there. So it's nested in there. But we want to be more precise, so we give it the name button blue, because it's going to be a blue button. This will make your code be easier to read and understand for other coders, and you don't have to explain it too much. And also for yourself, when you've got a project that you've worked on a long time ago and then you don't remember what was that, and then it's nice. You could also call it banana or dog or something, but it doesn't make sense, because it's more useful to use syntax that helps you understand how it works. Cool, so nothing has changed. Let's change it. We now open our editor and let's start. So when you've got your structure, as you can see, we have these specific ones, and now we're going to use the classes that we created ourselves. So in this case, we're going to use the button blue, and to target it, we have to write a dot and then the name of it. Something seems, let's see if it does something or not. He seems to be complaining a bit. Let's just see. One thing that I always love to do is I just say background. Oh yeah, nice. It has worked. So I don't know why he had this funny line. So we wanted to be the background blue. I always do this so I can see where is my div and how big is it actually. Now I'm going to change it to display inline block, which will tell it don't take up the entire width. If you want to read more about this, it's like the block elements, display block, display inline. So things behave differently, but this has covered this issue. And then we're going to say padding. It should have padding 8 pixels to top and 16 pixels to left and right. Oh, it looks wonderful. The only thing I want to do is change the color of it to maybe white. Now you can see it doesn't do that. Why is that? Because I have told the A tag to be black. So of course he doesn't want to listen to me. Let's see if we can fix it like this. No, we cannot. But what we can do is that we tell the button blue, all the A tags in there should have the color white. Nice, it worked. Because CSS file reads it from top to bottom, and it always, the more specific you are with your description, the better you can target the things. And this also, maybe it gives you a bit better understanding. It doesn't really make sense sometimes to change all of the A tags to a specific color, and then you cannot figure out why is one of them red. So the more specific you are, the better. And it also helps sometimes to use this important if you really cannot get rid of something. But you should not do that because it overrides all of the styles. I think there was one question. Yeah, it's a link. I cannot read it now, but yes. Jumping back into this. So we've styled the link. I think maybe we could make the headline a bit bigger. So we could just say, usually you define all of your fonts and the general things that are not classes and ideas, you define them on the top. But it's always better to be very precise. So in this case, we don't want to change all the general H1s, but we just want to change the H1 that is in our banner. I mean, for this project, it doesn't matter since we only have one H1, but we're going to say the banner, and in here, we're going to target the H1 and font size. Let's give it a font size of 40 pixel. Nice, it got a bit bigger. Yeah, it looks good. And also one thing that is, we're going to give the banner a background of dark blue. So we can see it takes up the entire width, so that is fine. But one thing that is really bugging me is that we have like a padding and a margin everywhere. So let's get rid of that. Margin 0 pixels. Nice. So we have removed this general thing here. We will then eventually have to give margin to our elements, but right now, at least we are covering with a full width. Now we can finish the styling of that. As you can see here, we have also this paragraph is a bit small, is a bit bigger than the one we have here, and it's white. Let's change that. So we're going to say here it's a color white for the H1. This looks good to me. And then we want to target the P that is in there. So this should be a bit smaller, 24 pixel or maybe 20. Yeah, let's give it 24 or leave it like that. It's actually fine. And as you can see, the opacity was a bit lower. So one fancy feature of VS Code is that you can just drag it and then it automatically turns it into RGBA. So you have this opacity thing. You could also add a specific value in here, but I think it's very cool that you could just hover and then drag it. Nice. So we have the banner, and you have seen that you can add images like this, but you could also add an image via background image, since the image here is not really an image, it's a background image. It's not really part of the content. It doesn't do anything there. So the way you do this is you say background image, and then you cannot say src, so source, but you say URL. And also there you could put external files, but in this case we're going to go back to our as we did it here, where, give me a second, where did we do it in our images tags? They're hidden here. In our images, we go to our images folder and then we search for the file called background JPG. Let's do that. So we go to images, then we say background, and it's already asking me, do you mean background JPG? Yes, we do. It looks almost there. Let's give it a certain height of 400 pixel. Nice. Now we just have to tell the background that it should behave in a certain way. We say background size cover. Cool. And now this will tell the image that it will always cover the content of the website and doesn't have a specific width because before that it was filling up the entire thing with its actual width, which was way too big. Nice. So we've got that. Another thing that we have to change is text align center. So so this is covered. It is now centered, and it still doesn't look like we want it. So maybe we can fix it with margin. So we say margin left and right margin. So you could give it a general margin, and oh no, it's a padding. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, confused it. So it is. Yeah, so the padding would then be global padding for EM or REM. This is, you could also use pixel, but you oftentimes nowadays use ERM or EM, which is always depending on the device you use. So it's not a fixed width, but it's a clever way of telling it, you're a small browser, you've got only a small, you're probably a mobile. So it's smaller. It's a clever way, but for this case, we're going to give it a padding of 40 pixel top and bottom and 100 pixel left and right. Yeah, we will have to, it's there. We're going to fine tune it later. Now it's also too high. Maybe let's do a more 300 pixel. Yeah, nice. We still have our cards section to cover. So let's do that. We don't have the structure for this yet. Let's do it. How have we called it? We called it the card box. So I'm just going to copy that card box. And as I said, one thing that I like to do is to give it a background pale turquoise, for example. So I actually see where my things are and how they look. So as you can see, the card box is containing all of the cards, but it doesn't really have the behavior that I wanted to have. And let's see, for the card white, we could also already put this here. The card white would be background. Let's give it white. Usually I choose something very ugly because I would choose something like yellow. So it's very bright and I can see where it is. As you can see, the cards are not really behaving the way I want them to behave. Like they take up the entire width, which is not what we want, but we're going to fix this. Background white, and we can fix this because right now it has something to do with the image, which is taking up the entire width. So how we target it? We target it by calling the name. It's the image inside of the card white. If we would if we would target all images, then we would speak to all of the images in all of our file, and that's not what we want. Because here we are giving it a specific height of, let's say, 180 pixel. Nice, already looks better. And yeah, so now it's a bit structured. We could see, maybe we can see how our cards border to pick solid gray. See, oh yeah, our cards are way too wide. We're going to cover that later. For now, let's also change the H3. I think the H3 is a bit small. It could be a bit bigger. So again, I'm saying card wide, and the H3 in it should be font size 20 pixel or 24 pixel. Yeah, it's a bit bigger. Nice. Yeah, let's take care of the footer, and then we will jump into the grid system, which will solve our issue with the cards. So the footer is just a p tag inside of our class footer. So again, I'm calling the class. I'm giving it a background of black, or maybe let's choose like a more subtle gray. And yeah, you can see we have it, but also the font color is black. So we have to change that to white. And I'm giving it a more like a slightly opacity. So nice. And another thing that I'm going to do is give it a text align center. So it should now be aligned. And then the last thing I'm going to add is padding of 24 pixels. So it has a bit of space to breathe, and it looks more like a footer now. So the core is there. I'm just going to jump back into the slides, and then we're going to finish it. And we are actually not that far. You might not believe it, but we're not that far from making it look like it does here. Cool. So to recap, as I said, there's a difference between ID and class. It's a naming. This is how you name elements for your custom design. There is H1, H2, 3, 4, 5, P, and IDs and class are things that you can create yourself. And you might wonder, when should I use an ID and when should I use a class? So in this example, we have different types of images. For example, we have a logo, and we have images of the band members of the Beatles. And you almost only want to resize the logo. If you would now target the image, then what would happen is you would change the width of all of the images, but that's not what we want. What we want is we give the logo, the ID logo, and then we can target it directly. So now when we change the width of the ID logo to 100 pixel, it only gets only the element with the ID logo gets affected by it. And before that, I was always using classes. Maybe you remember, it was a dot, and for the ID, it is a hashtag. So this is the proper way to do it. And the other way around, when you want to target all of the band members. So for example, you want to resize them, or you want to have you want them to have a border radius 50%, so you have a nice round picture of their faces. You add a class, and in this case you could call it image circle, and then it is a dot, and you say dot image circle in your CSS file, and you give it a border radius of 50%. And so the logo wouldn't care about it, because the logo is not the class image circle, but all of our band members are. And now our band would be in round divs. Nice. And to make it a bit more specific when to use which one, the CSS is for reusable design, and the IDs are used for unique adjustments. And when it comes to which one you should use more often, the CSS should make up 90% of your CSS rules and your the way you structure your things. And then only the IDs should only make up out of 10% of your CSS, because it will save you time when you have those general reusable styles that you can apply over and over again and don't have to write specific things for it. And also it makes it more legible and more understandable for other people, because they don't have to go through so many lines of code and look, where does this error come from? Why is it still blue? Why doesn't it listen to me? Yeah, so it's always the better way to go to have classes. And when you are wondering how you should name them, as I said, you could call it banana or wonky Bob, but it doesn't make sense. It's always better to call it the way what they actually do. So you could have a class called text center that you could apply on texts that you have on your website. And this would mean that all of these texts then get centered. Or you could have the class button red, or you could have the class list inline. And this would not only let you know what it does, but it makes sense when you read it. image circle, as I said, is used for avatars. You could use it for avatars when you have the border radius of 50%. Yeah. Or when you have a form that should not be like in column, but in a horizontal way. Yeah. And now we are going to fine tune this, but the next step for our card is the grid. And right now we don't have it, which is why they're still sitting there and don't behave like they should. CSS grid is just a nice way to structure pages, the contents you have on a page. You could also use Flexbox, but Flexbox is a whole different topic. It's also very nice to play around with, but for now we're going to use the display grid. And first you tell the element that it has a display grid, which is just telling it, aha, I will be a grid. And then you tell it how many, I actually wrote it down because I didn't know what FR means. It means fractional units. So how many fractions are, and as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And in between them, we have a grid gap of 16 pixels, which will give us a bit space. Now let's apply that. Here you can see that our cards will then just nicely fill in our content and behave, hopefully. Let's see if they do it. Let's jump back to our example. So we have our card box. So we say display grid. And then we give it, display grid. And then what's the naming convention? We have the display grid, and then we tell it to have the grid template columns of, let's go with the example we have here, grid template columns, and we say, let's see, nice. It looks already way better. Let's see if we can fix the last issues here. So right now we need a gap in between those. So let's say gap 24 pixels. And now we can eventually also see our nice light blue background, which is what we wanted. I think the whole thing could use some padding. So let's look again how the thing was called. It was called the container. Do we have the class already? No, we don't. Then we're going to edit. And also when you structure your file, the way I like to do it is that I start from top to bottom and then keep it a bit in this structure that elements that appear first should be first, and then you just have a better structure in there. So we have a padding of 24 pixel. Nice. So we have a bit more space around everything. Looks better already. And let's remove this border. We don't need it anymore. But what we are going to apply to our card is a box shadow of let's say 4 pixel, 4 pixel, and 10 pixel, and then give it a, I'm always starting with a full black, but then I'm increasing it. So I want it to be something like slight gray, which is more elegant. We can now also remove our stupid background that was just there to display it. Nice, our cards are here, but I think they also, I might increase the size again, decrease the size again, something to 20. Yeah, it's better. I think also our card could be aligned, align center. And it also could use some padding because it's really cluttered. Padding of 16 pixel. Yeah, looks good to me. The cards behave the way they should. It's Almost. Yeah, I think we could add some fancy features. I mean, of course, there's always things you can improve, but I'm just going to show you some nice twitches around, for example, for our button. I don't know if you've heard of hover styles. Hovering is when you have your mouse, and then I'm just going to apply it, and then it makes sense. It's not a style, it's not a different class, but it's a pseudo style because it's written like that, hover. And we're going to change that blue to a darker blue. See, that's just should be darker blue. And now when we hover it, you can see it's a darker blue now. And another nice little twitch that you could apply to your cards is called the transform scale. This will be applied on our card white. So I'm just going to use that. Again, use the pseudo class, hover, and open it, and then say transform scale, and this will have a very big effect if I would do 1.5. This would mean that as a whole card gets scaled up 150%. So 1.0 means 100%, and 1.5 means 150. So it's huge. It's way too big. We're going to tone it down a bit and say 1.05. Nice. So it's just a subtle little effect here. I'm not really happy with the general padding of this, so I'm still changing that. It's in our container. I'm going to say top and bottom, it should have 80 pixels, and left and right around 240 pixels. Yes, looks already better to me. I think our H2 is still behaving a bit weird. I think I want to make it a bit bigger. So because we only have one H2 in this file, I think it's also okay to directly target it. But usually, as I said, it's not good when you change this, because then it would change in all of your files. So pay attention to that. Let's say margin bottom 16 pixels. Nice. So we've got a little space to the bottom, and then I also want to increase the size of it, because I think it could be a bit more prominent. Let's give it a font size of 32 pixels. Yes. Now it's a bit louder, maybe too loud. Let's increase that. 24 pixels. That's where I was, just fiddling my way around. Nice. So I think there was a question in the chat. Yeah, pseudo class, exactly. So it's not the real class. There is not only hover, but there's also when you leave it. But hover is one of the most common things, and it does not apply to mobile devices, of course, because on a mobile device, the mobile phone doesn't know if you are hovering it with your finger or not. Yeah, so let's see. So we've covered that. I think another last important thing that I could show you is actually how to make it. We're running a bit tight on time, but I'm still going to show you how it's going to change from this behavior to that behavior, so that it actually isn't 3 cards, but first 2 cards and then 1 card. And this can be done with media queries, which are for responsiveness. Responsiveness means that the CSS has different rules for different widths of devices. So because of course on a mobile phone a website looks different, and the way you can do it is you say add add media, and then you say, give it a max width, and you say, for example, we're starting with 108 pixel. There are different rules and sets. There are different breakpoints that you should pay attention to when it comes to this, but just for now, I'm going with this value. Usually you have mobile, tablet in panorama mode, and then small laptops and those huge curve screens that you've got to pay attention to. But this is how you open it, and then in here you're going to add the classes that you want to change. For example, in our case, we want our card box to change. So it should still be a grid, but it shouldn't be 3 in a row, but 2 in a row. So we're going just copying that. Of course, we've got to close it, otherwise he's complaining. We can remove that because it is already in there. It already knows that. But we're going to change it to only 2. And another thing that as I said, I have to do is I give it a background color just to see if it actually changes something. And we're also covering the smaller size too. So let's say something like 550, or let's give 600 just for displaying purposes. Red. We're going to remove that. So right now it is not 2 fractional units, but only 1 left. And let's see if something happens. Boom! Yeah, but the background doesn't happen for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I must tell it to be important, or I have done something wrong. Maybe he doesn't. If this doesn't work, then well, I'm just going to apply it on the card itself. Let's see, this should work. Card, background, orange, and it still doesn't work. Something is not working here, but at least I know why it's not working. We called it card white. Of course, we've got to say card white. That's what I name with specific naming conventions, not listening to it myself. Orange. And now, still not. Something's off here, but that's usually how I like to do it. At least the grid is working. So we've got that. And then later, I was on the wrong thing. Sorry, my bad. So let's try it again. Always have the right browser open, white card, and of course we're going to say here background orange. Please change now. Is it now working? No, it's not working. Let's see. Something is off, but we're going to fix it. Media max width, of course. Yeah. So syntax is quite important when it comes to writing code, obviously. So now this is working, something else is off. That's also one of these things when you're coding, you fix one thing and then another thing is on fire. So there's always so much you can do. Let's see. I also don't like how the padding is here. It's not really the way it should behave, but at least it's now changing from 1. I think this should be maybe 550. Maybe he's done responding. No, not responding yet. Or does he? No. Okay. One thing you can always do when you want to see how a goal is achieved is you go to the inspect mode, and then you actually click on it. And this is also one of the features for why you should use Google Chrome, is that you can inspect how they have done it. And here you can see they have a background white, a box shadow, a border radius, the padding margin, and they've used Flexbox, which I know because they're using a flex scroll. So the parent element, the cards, have the flex somewhere in here. Yeah, so that's that. And this would be up to you then to try to build it yourself when you are on board on the learning platform. And once you've done it, you can, the last thing that I was showing you is this thing here. Of course, you could always sneak into the solution, but I would try to do it on your own first. So when you get started, it's how you set up the file. Just download VS Code and then drag it into it, set up the HTML content, start with the fonts and the colors first, manage the div structure, and then you can start to style the classes and the IDs. And as seen in my example, it's important to pay attention to syntax and how you call it. The last thing you then implement is the CSS grid. And yeah, if you've got time and are interested in it, then responsive design is the next step. And afterwards, if you're really interested how you can publish your website, you can then go to this, and there is a clear instruction on how you do it, since you've got to pay attention how it goes, and it's a bit tricky, but you can be really proud of yourself once you've done it. And there was yeah, you will get it. You will get it after the I'm going to pass around the link for the learning platform right now. There is a token that you've got to enter. There will also be a recording of the whole lecture. So this is the link to the learning platform. And then you have here the token that you've got to enter. It's like the password. Yeah. Another thing that I want to show you now is how it's a project that I've done myself, which is showing you how you can change a core structure of content with different CSS rules. And for inspiration, I've browsed how web design has changed over the time. So for example, right here, the content just floats in one row, and we only have one font style, one font color, since there wasn't much design at that time. Then 1991, we're changing a bit. And this is only HTML and CSS. So you can do so much with it. It's, of course, you've got to read it. I think the biggest important thing is that you read into how divs are structured, and that you really learn how to structure your page. And then you can do fun little things. For example, for 96, I already developed some nice basic animations, which are also done with CSS. And in the 2000s, we would more go for a techno matrix vibe. 2001 is a bit cleaner again. 2006 is all in the emo scene. 2010, we are thinking a bit about skeuomorphism, copying this Instagram style that was back in the days. 2014, we have material design look. 2017, we have some nice grainy background animation, and some also, it's also done, everything is done with CSS. Some nice rotating text. And 2019, we have this flat 3D gradient style. Yeah, So maybe there are some questions now. I would just jump back to the page and finish some things. Yes?
Yeah, I think it's fine in terms of questions.
Okay. Then I think I've covered the things. Is there something else?
Well, I really want to say thank you so much, Stella. I think that was really, really interesting. And as I texted in the chat already, you guys have my email address. So if there's anything you need after this, if you want to get the recording, because I think only people who actually registered but didn't attend will automatically get the recording. So if you still want it, then you can just text me. And for everything in terms of access to Le Wagon content, I guess you can also text Stella, right?
Mm-hmm. I could also enter my email address so you got that. It's
yeah, I think that will be great.
It's just hello@stellarab, since that's me.
Perfect. Yeah, so, that's great. I think that was really extensive and really, really great. So thank you so much. I think we've all learned a lot. And yeah, I hope that maybe we can do another recording or another webinar sometime soon. I wish all of you guys who are still there, 6 people I see, a really nice evening. Thank you again, Stella. And like I said, you have all the information. So if you have any other questions afterwards, just let us know. We're there to help. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.